Discovered my husband of 7 years was cheating with a young coworker. So I got revenge by sending proof to all their F&F, while blindsiding him with divorce papers, and getting him fired. I, 35F, have been married to my husband, 34M, for 7 years. We've never really had any problems beyond regular couple issues in our relationship, and we were able to establish a really strong foundation of trust by telling each other pretty much everything that is happening in our lives. If a guy comes up to me and asks for my number at the supermarket, I'd tell him. If a female friend is being really touchy with him, he'll let me know as soon as he gets home. This has been our arrangement for years, and it's worked great for both of us. The issue started when I was putting his clothes into the laundry and emptying out the pockets, as all of us should do, not just to prevent money or valuables from being ruined, but because this was what set the entire thing into motion for me. I found a receipt from a relatively fancy restaurant in our area, and based on what was ordered, it was clear that it was a dinner for two. My husband hadn't told me anything about this, so while my first instinct was suspicion, I felt that there must have been an explanation of some sort for it. I confronted him with what I had found, and he actually did have a pretty good explanation for it. My husband is a corporate guy, the kind of person who wears a suit to work every day. His job also calls pretty frequently for him to try and sugar up potential clients, so according to him, that receipt was from a client that he took to dinner to discuss things a bit further with. I asked him why he didn't tell me about it like he usually does, but he said it was simply because it slipped his mind by the time he got back home, and that the deal wasn't closed in the end. He didn't seem to have to think much before telling me all of this, so I believed it right away. The only gripe I had with him then was that we hadn't gone to that restaurant together, since we had been wanting to. Anyway, I trusted my husband, as I've said, so I never really thought anything else of what had happened. There really wasn't a reason to, just based on seeing a receipt. Things went back to normal pretty quickly after that, and we didn't have any issues with each other for quite a few months. However, things boiled up again between us about a month later when a friend of mine called me one evening and said that she bumped into my husband with a woman on his arm. She just happened to be in a part of the city that was a bit far off and spotted him across the road. I asked her if she was sure it was him, but she said she actually crossed the road and spoke to him. When he saw her, he let go of the woman but seemed to act normal beyond that. He didn't seem too flustered, she said. Her only regret was she didn't ask him what he was doing in that part of town, and they went their separate ways soon after. Right before they turned the corner, she saw the woman clasp onto his arm again. At this point, all the alarms in my head started to blare. I thought briefly about the receipt I had found in his pocket, but honestly, I didn't make too much of a connection because it still could have been a business dinner. But this on its own was enough for him to have a lot of explaining to do. As soon as he got back home, which was around 11 p.m., he could tell that something was off with my mood, and he asked me what was wrong right away. Considering my friend hadn't hidden herself, I think he already knew what it was about, but he waited for me to say it. When I told him and asked him to explain himself, he just chuckled and shook his head lightly. According to him, that woman was one of his coworkers and there was nothing going on between them. They had gone for a business dinner with some clients that the company was trying to get on board, so about 4 people from his company had attended with him. The female coworker that my friend saw had too much to drink, and that was why she was supporting herself on him. Here's the thing, I realized that my husband had time to think of a story because he knew my friend would have told me, but for some reason, I believed him. Maybe it was because I had always trusted him, or because I was in denial and I didn't want the mess that would come about from this being what I hoped it wasn't, but it was so easy for me to believe him, and that was what I chose to do. He even hugged me afterward, saying that he would have told my friend if she had asked so that I wouldn't have had to worry myself. He apologized for stressing me out and told me that I really had nothing to worry about. That he was mine and mine alone. At that point, all my suspicions dissolved. At this point, things went fine for about 6 months straight. No accounts of anyone seeing him traipsing around town with women, no stray and unexplained receipts in suit pockets. Things seemed normal, and I honestly didn't find myself dwelling on whether my husband was cheating on me or not. However, this peace of mind really only lasted that long, and it was after the third event that everything started to crumble. My husband came back home pretty late one night. It was nearly midnight, and he had texted me at some point during the night that he was doing the usual whining and dining for one of the clients that his company was trying to win over. Again, it wasn't the first time in the 6-month period, so I didn't think too much of it. He came back, a little tipsy, and it was when I went in to hug him that I smelt what was distinctly feminine perfume. I immediately asked him why he smelt like a woman's perfume, but I tell you that this man told me straight to my face that it was his usual perfume. He's been wearing the same Tom Ford fragrance to work for the last 2 years, so I don't think it is ridiculous for me to be able to tell when he smells like something different. I told him it was a different fragrance, but he only maintained that it was his usual scent, and he told me I was acting delusional, which was an out-of-character thing for him to say to me. He gently pushed past me and went upstairs. I think this was the first time that I really knew something was wrong. Because I started to feel like I was being gaslighted. It was then that the thing with the receipt and what my friend had seen came back to me, and suddenly, I was extremely suspicious. I was halfway up the stairs, wanting to confront him, but I actually realized that he would probably gaslight me again until I felt like I was losing my mind or being an emotional woman or something. I still went upstairs though, because I knew he was in the shower. He had undressed, with his clothes lying on the bed and his phone beside it. I had to smell his suit and his shirt again, because I needed to be sure I wasn't actually losing it, and sure enough, I was 100% certain that wasn't his Tom Ford perfume that I was smelling on it. At that point, I went straight into his phone. I went into the gallery app first, and right there were the pictures taken that night. It was him at some kind of lounge, with a young woman, she looked like she was 23 or something, cozied up to him. There was even a picture of them kissing while she held the phone for a selfie. I felt like I was going to explode. I took a video with my own phone, swiping through all the pictures. I was about to enter his messaging app, but I could hear him rounding up in the bathroom, so I let it go. Honestly, I wanted to confront him so badly, but I needed to know more because I felt like he'd find a stupid way to explain away the kiss and I might actually fall for it. I know, I hate how much I wanted to trust him. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep, so I grabbed his phone and jumped into the messaging app. The first 2 messages were people from work, but the last one was someone called Sabrina, and I hadn't heard anything about her before, so I assumed this was the mystery girl and I was right. I went through the messages and I really can't tell you when tears started streaming down my face. He had told her he loved her, called me all sorts of names, they had reminisced about nights they had just had, there were nudes exchanged, and I don't know when I had gone far enough to see him sending pictures from the night that they had at the same restaurant I had seen the receipt of. I really hope that nobody here has to go through what I went through, because in that moment, I actually felt like there was nothing left for me. I felt absolutely broken. Some pretty dark thoughts went through my mind as I looked over at him sleeping. After 7 years of marriage. I know better now, but I remember thinking about how I do my best to look good, eat healthy, and go to the gym. I know for a fact that I look good for my age, but it